this looks beautiful. So how are you guys enjoying your time on Top Chef?
Yeah! Top Chef is back.
Let's go, baby, let's go.
15 rising star chefs have come to Canada to compete in the ultimate culinary showdown.
Poutine.
Never eaten so much poutine before.
Yes, girl.
They're here to fight for the biggest prize ever.
The next Top Chef is...
Can I compete?
Yes, go Top.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. I'm your host, Rich Herrera. This is your podcast for all things food and pop culture. Thank you for tuning in. Just a reminder to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content, anywhere you get your socials and anywhere you get your podcast at Eat Your Content. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you know when new episodes drop. Just a quick programming reminder. This is Top Chef Season 22. I'm so excited. It's a new season in Canada. And this is my third time doing an episodic recap. So if you want to know when episodes are going to drop, make sure you hit that subscription button and hit that bell icon so you'll be notified of when things are coming. But I am not doing this Top Chef recap alone. Joining me every week this season is someone who knows exactly what it's like to battle it out on the Top Chef kitchen. She's made it all the way to the finale of season 21, proving she's got the skills, the creativity, and the kind of cool under pressure thinking that makes a true Top Chef competitor. Now she's bringing that insider perspective to help us break down every dish, every challenge, and every elimination this season. Please welcome Top Chef finalist, the incredibly talented Chef Savannah Miller. Chef Savannah, thank you for joining us.
Oh man, this is amazing. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be doing this with you and going through the episodes and getting to know these chefs. I feel like this is a dream come true. So thank you, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. I know it's a huge time sink to devote 14 weeks of going over Top Chef every week. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're super, super busy, but I think the fans are going to love it. They love you. And I think we're going to make some really great episodes together. But we got a Top Chef preview show to talk about. It premieres next week on the 13th. Top Chef, you are recently an alumni of the Top Chef family. Just to quickly go through your time on Top Chef, you were the first half of the season was really interesting in season 21 last year. Not a lot of like confessional interviews from you. There wasn't a whole lot going on. Sometimes I forgot you were even on the show. And then the second half of the season, there was a turn, right? And some would even argue you got a winner's edit because the back half of this season, you really turned it on. You really turned on the burner, so to speak. And you were just winning challenge after challenge after challenge. You made it all the way to the finale, and unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. But I mean, you kind of, from the way it was edited, came out of nowhere. So, what was your experience like during that show? Kind of watching it back, watching the full season, and kind of seeing how you performed and how things were sort of edited and set up for the season. What was your overall experience like on the show?
Yeah, I think I agree with what you just said. Like, I had a lot of people coming to me and saying, did you win, or are you going to be eliminated like next week? Because we're really not seeing you. And, I had a ton of family when we announced that I was going to be in the show, like, oh, we're so excited. And I mean, it was like 5 weeks of getting texts, right after it's done. Like, well, I didn't see much, but I do like this person, And so I agree. I think it was a little weird watching it back because for me those 5 weeks really happened, or whatever, how long that was for us in those filming like that. There was a lot of highs and lows and things that I'll never forget. And it's interesting to watch it back and be like, oh, never mind, it's for me and that's okay. But that was weird. And I think towards the end, I definitely enjoyed seeing myself, kind of blossom, I would say. It felt like that in the moment. And so it was cool to watch it back and share all that because, when you're just calling home every week and you're telling your family and friends, kind of what you're doing and what's going on, it's one version, but it was really cool to watch my loved ones watch it. So it was great. Yeah.
Having the watch parties at your house and watching your family react to you on the show, that must've been just heartwarming for you and just so fun to watch.
Group. Yeah, they are loud, so it would be bring your own lawn chair. And my dad has a projector, but it was really fun. It was something also too, I'm realizing I missed having this weekly night where for me last year, it was I got to see everybody I love, once a week. Like everyone was like, pause, like we're going to see each other every single Wednesday night. And so I'm excited to like watch the show again and kind of like have that ceremony throughout the week of something to look forward to.
Yeah, so you're going to have a really unique perspective, I think, watching it as a fan. Even though you're in the industry and you have a sense of knowing what they do, but watching it as a fan and now watching it as now being part of the Top Chef family, you're going to be looking at it from a different lens, which is why I'm really excited for you to be on the show, on the podcast with me these next few weeks. I'm watching it still from a fan's perspective, so I'm going to be like, why didn't you sous vide that? I'm going to be talking about things that I have no idea what I'm talking about, right? I mean, I've covered Top Chef for 3 seasons and I have a lot of fun doing it, but really having that insider's perspective, I think, is going to be huge, just to get an understanding of what the contestants are going through, what's going through their mind mentally, emotionally, physically, because it's a very physical game,
Yeah, like having the backstory almost of like, other seasons I've watched it as a fan and being in the industry, but like still as like having no clue what that feels like, like you're seeing the stress from the challenge, but like there's so much other stuff, good and bad, that happens that never makes it to the screen and the edit. And so, yeah, like knowing that there's all of that stuff underneath the surface and like actually watching it from the POV of having done it and, having more empathy in that sense, but also feeling a little bit more. Because I did that too. I sit on my couch and I'm like, what are you doing? And I think it's natural. And, in the moment when you're cooking, you're laughing at like, at least I'm out here doing it, right? But it's interesting to have that like perspective of going through the motions and knowing what the judges are looking for, because it is easier to spot mistakes. And a lot of times it's, hindsight is 2020. So I'm excited to watch it and kind of, I don't know, see what these guys do and these gals do.
Yeah. So what's life been like for you since Top Chef? You left the season, you're back at work, you're back at M Tempura. It got to be a little bit different, right? It got to feels a little different. But what's life been like for you in terms of opportunities, professional opportunities, other opportunities to collaborate with other chefs? I follow you on Instagram, so I see a lot of collaborations with like Sue and some others. So kind of tell me what life's been.
Busy is the right word. I feel like I have this calendar behind me. But that's like how we know what's going on. Essentially, it's like every day I feel like there's something else or we're planning something. So it's great. Like I'm really excited. And the last year, once the show aired, obviously there's a lot going on with us watching it every week and people coming into the restaurant and being so excited. Tempura is really small and it's like an 11-seat bar where we're just cooking right behind it. So even if you're at a table, I mean, we're like a stone's throw away from each other. And if you're at the bar, we're serving you and we're talking. And I think having that connection with people has been really cool. It's made the entire experience like feel like it's lasted so much longer. I literally get to talk to somebody about it every night. So I'm really grateful for that. As far as like the other stuff, it does feel like there's 2 full-time jobs now. Like there's kind of like balancing the workload of doing these trips and like cooking with the other chefs. And like, I'm not going to say no. It's like one of the best things that you get out of the whole deal, or like these friends and getting to travel and meet all these people and network. And so, yeah, balancing those 2 things has been really interesting. So plus like a normal life, right? Like I do other things besides cook and work too. So it's been interesting, but it's been a very like full year and it's all been good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, once you're on Top Chef, your name is kind of out there in the sphere of competition. Has any other cooking competition shows reached out to you and said, hey, we'd love to have you on, I don't know, Chopped or some other cooking competition show? A lot of Top Chef alums are like on Tournament of Champions. There's a lot of Top Chef alums on there this year. So has that bug kind of bit you, or you're like, yeah, I checked it off my bucket list, I'm good?
Oh no, I've definitely been bitten by the bug. I would compete again. To be honest, I think I would preferably do an all-star season first, so
Oh, yeah.
I would hold out. Like I would rather say no to a few things if it meant that I was putting more eggs in that basket and getting ready for that. Which like, I don't want to jinx myself, but I also like, best case scenario, I'll be really prepared. That is honestly, we talk about that once a week. That's the game plan. So we are planners. So that's something we're thinking about. But if I'm being honest, if like, I guess the Food Network would reach out and I do see a lot of people doing that. And I think Tournament of Champions is like a really fun it's a fun show to watch, but as a chef, I think it would be a really fun way to play the game. And so I would definitely do it. But my perfect scenario is I get to wait and I get to just get ready, and then go back out there and do that. And then afterwards, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like get on another Top Chef All-Star season down the line.
That's my goal. That
would be great. I mean, I'm sure everybody would love to see on Top Chef again in an All-Star season. So I'll be voting for that for sure. So you were talking, what's that?
I said I want redemption.
That's right. Like a redemption season. I don't know if they've done that. I have to go back and look, but I would love to see like a redemption season of ones that were almost there, didn't quite make it, and have those folks come back. So that would be really, really fun. So let's talk Top Chef season 22, right? So when you heard Top Chef was going to be in Canada instead of traditionally another city in the United States, what were your first thoughts?
To be honest, it's a huge area. I feel like they're really moving around a lot. That's kind of broad. I think that's great from a viewer's standpoint, but as far as like if I was cooking in this season, it would be a little overwhelming to prepare for Canada. But I also think Top Chef has something in Canada already, so I also was a little bit like, oh, but we haven't had I don't know, like we haven't done it there ourselves. So it's different when you're like, it's like if people in Canada were like, we're going to do the United States, like they're going to do things that they haven't done before, and they're going to have an interesting take on it. And they're going to be like, I didn't really grow up with this. So blah, blah, blah. So I'm really interested to see like how these chefs go into Canada and like really soak all that up and like what they do with it.
Yeah. When I first heard Canada was going to be the next season, I'll be honest, I was a little annoyed because I was like, Top Chef already has Top Chef Canada. Like, well, why do we need to go there again? There's so many cities that could be highlighted that don't traditionally get the spotlight in a culinary way. And I think it's been written that anywhere Top Chef lands for the season, tourism immediately gets a bump because people want to go there. I mean, even Wisconsin, your season in Wisconsin, I was like, Wisconsin, other than cheese, I don't really know a whole lot about the culinary, thing of Wisconsin. So, but Wisconsin got a huge spotlight from Top Chef. And I'm like, other cities in the U.S. could get that. But, after I got my initial annoyance, after I let it wash over me, I was like, Canada could be cool. It'll be fun to see a different angle of Top Chef. Our first international, I guess, season of Top Chef. But yeah, so I mean, I'm happy that we're having Top Chef period, but I was a little annoyed that we're in Canada.
I think I'm really trying to like, cause I did feel that way about Wisconsin, like for me, it was like, at first, my initial response was like, man, I have waited my whole life for this, and we're going to Wisconsin. But coming out of it, I was like, man, we learned so much. I would go back and visit in a second. And it's like, I think it's beautiful. So I'm curious, like if I love Canada right now, but I'm really curious about how I'll feel about it once I learn a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a poutine challenge. There's got to be.
Yeah. There's that in the promo. Yeah. And I mean, I just love that Gail's going to Canada. You know what I mean? I want to see Gail in Canada.
Yeah, that's her hometown, right? Canada.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. All right. So with all that being said, let's get into the draft. So this is our third, well, actually my second annual. The first time I did Top Chef, I didn't do a draft, but the second two I did. So this is my second Top Chef draft. Here's how it's going to break down. Chef Savannah, as my honored and esteemed guest, you will get the first overall draft pick, and we're going to go back and forth and pick our chefs, give a reason why we picked those chefs after we've done our voluminous research over the past few weeks. It's an odd numbers, 15 chefs, so one of us is going to have 8, one of us is going to have 9, so it's fine. So we'll break that down. Also, I just want to go over the scoring for everybody. So scoring is done by episode. So every episode we have an opportunity to gather points. And at the end of the season, the chef with the most points, whether it's Savannah or not chef, but I'm not a chef, but the player with the most points wins. What's that?
We can call you chef.
Oh, no. No, absolutely not. I did not earn that title. My God. But all right. So the player at the end with the most points wins, bragging rights. And I did horrible last year. Savannah, you listened last year to some of my episodes. I think I lost by huge double digits to a chef friend of mine. and that we did it last year. And I'm hoping to turn my fortunes around this year. So we'll see how it goes. So here's how the point breakdown works every episode. So for a quick fire win, the chef that has the quick fire win gets 5 points. So those 5 points goes on one of our teams. An elimination challenge, you get 7 points if you win the elimination challenge. If you sweep, you both win the quick fire and the elimination challenge, which I think you have experience with. You would get a bonus 3 points. If you're in the top of the judges table, so if you're in the top 3, you get 3 points, but you do not get the bonus 3 points if you swept. Like if you won the elimination challenge, you don't get 7 plus 3. So the other 2 people would get the 3 points. If you're on the bottom 3 of the judges table, those chefs will get negative 2 points. So it is possible, and I have experienced this last year. I ended an episode in the negative because I chose poorly on my chefs. I know, it was embarrassing. And then Last Chance Kitchen. If you have a chef that goes through the gamut of Last Chance Kitchen, you get 2 points per Last Chance Kitchen win. So it is a possibility that you could have a chef leave early, run the gamut of Last Chance Kitchen, earn some points there, get back into the show, earn some more points, and then win the whole thing.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So it could be an interesting way it gets scored. Season finale. So some special scoring for the season finale. If you make the season finale show, and the season finale being the final episode, you get 15 points for that chef. And then if you win the whole thing, you get 30 points. So the winning chef gets 30 points for your team, and that's how the scoring breaks down. So Last Chance Kitchen, you did not get a chance to go through Last Chance Kitchen in Top Chef Season 21. Is that an experience you kind of wish you had?
No. Yeah, that's the easiest question you've ever asked me. I have so much like respect for anybody who does it, because I think it's what you see normally, but like in reality, it is them taking like ideas from all the challenges and shoving it into a 30-minute thing where like Tom watching me cook the entire time, like just take all those things, like it's not for me. I think that's why I started fighting so hard. I just knew I couldn't do it. I was more afraid of Last Chance Kitchen. So
That's funny. Yeah, Tom, I can't imagine Tom just like looking over your shoulder the entire 20, 30 minutes. What you doing?
Those were the worst moments, as far as like the oh my God, like how can I even focus on for me was anytime he would walk into the kitchen, because I'd just be like, God, where's he at? Like I feel like I'm constantly like, looking over my shoulder, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and then the way he looks at you and then asks you a question, you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this. He goes, okay. And then you just don't know, like, did I just make a bad decision? Am I going the right way? He gives you nothing.
Yeah, it's just enough to like really start second guessing yourself.
Yeah, you start questioning all the life decisions you made up to that point, right? Okay, so here we are, draft time. Chef Savannah, who is your number 1 pick?
I feel pretty strong about this. So this I feel good about. I was nervous when I found out I had the first pick, but I'm going to go with Katiana Hong.
Oh, that was my number 1 pick too. That is
so sorry.
That's okay. Tell me why. It's probably the same reasons as why I was going to pick her. But what made you pick Katiana Hong?
So I all these press releases come out, so I feel like there's a lot of information. A lot of it is kind of repeated on different sites, but the one thing that was not from the press release, I'll get to that, was that I really didn't see a lot of her in the promo. And I hope I'm remembering that correctly. I have very key things that I remember. And if I'm being honest, like it's not a good or bad thing all the time, but the fact that I feel so strongly already and I don't remember anything about her in the promo, it kind of secured what I believe to be true, is that she's definitely going to make it all the way to the end, if not win. Looking on her bio, she's from New York, but she's in LA now. Also, it really stood out to me that there's a ton of accolades. I feel like everybody this season has a crazy resume, but the only woman in the nation holding a CDC title in a 3 Michelin starred kitchen at one point. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, the part about Katiana Hong that really caught my attention because I was reading the food and wine bios. Theirs are a little bit more in depth than some of the
Yeah.
things I've been reading. Is that she has a restaurant? Let me look it up here real quick. She and her partner have a restaurant that says offers a multi-dimensional autobiographical experience that showcases their respective backgrounds. I thought that's Top Chef in a sentence, right? How many Top Chef challenges have been like, show me who you are on a plate, and then the final challenge is like, cook me the best meal of your life. She's already got experience in thinking that way, whereas some chefs kind of hit a block and they're like, who am I? I mean, if you haven't figured it out by the finale, you're probably in a bad way. But that's a lot of the challenges in Top Chef is like, show me who you are on a plate, but using these ingredients, right? And so she's already thinking in that mode, and she was going to be my number one pick, and you stole her right from under me.
I think it's cool. I think about this a lot. It's like, and when you're thinking about menus and building restaurants and businesses in general, it's like, making art versus like making a product that needs to sell, right? Like, I think that's the balance. The idea of what you just said, of like what she's been doing in the space, in Top Chef, you're not there to like, you have to work within a budget, but the goal is to like put your art forward. And I think it's really cool that she's just naturally accustomed to doing that in a restaurant type setting.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge advantage for her. So I do predict good things. Oh, it's the luck of the draw, right? It's luck of the draft. But yeah. What was that? What was that again?
You made the rules. I love the rules. And now, who is your first pick?
My first pick, probably a little unconventional, I think, but I picked Kat Turner. The reason why I picked Kat Turner is I immediately recognized her when I saw her name. She's a two-time Chop champion, so she's cooked on TV before. I didn't know a lot about her bio, but I know that she has that competition kind of experience, especially with Chopped. Like you watch Chopped and you got to cook something with mystery ingredients like in 20, 30, or 40 minutes. So I think she's going to do really well in quick fires. I think she's going to, if unfortunately she finds herself in Last Chance Kitchen, I think she will excel there because she's used to those time constraints and weird ingredients being used. So I think from a competitive standpoint versus kind of like her pedigree, she definitely has an edge in that a little bit. So looking for good things for Kat, especially in the quick fires.
I think that's a good pick. Like, the one thing I noticed too, there's a lot of there's a lot of different, I don't want to say like career changes, but just like interesting fun facts about people. And I think Kat is the one, was in LA, like an actress and a dancer, which
and a
is
model.
Really, yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of like dramatics that go into Top Chef, like in the best way of like, like plate the table challenge or something. I just think that I could see Kat being that personality that you want to like root for.
Yeah, she has a flair for the dramatic, so I'm hoping to see that come out on the plate, and we'll see how it goes. Who is your number 2 pick?
I have to really between two people, but I'm gonna go with Henry Liu.
Another one of my top picks too. So good job with that one. Why Henry?
So, I mean, number one, that smile. He just like I tried to not focus too much on trying to like read into them from their photos because I hate my photo. And I'm like, man, this is not me. But I just like his smile. I genuinely feel like as far as I know, he's not currently there. I'm double checking myself. Sorry. There's a lot of like New York, San Francisco and like crossover stuff, but he's from New York City. He's currently in Houston. I just feel like he has accolades. I'm going to be honest. I got stuck on the mustache. I literally just think everyone has accolades. If I go down and list them all, I think I'm going to be so repetitive this entire thing. I think I look for vibes. It's like a vibe check, and he felt really good to me. I feel like from the promo, I saw a few things. I just feel like I'm going to get like from this photo, from what I feel about him already, he's going to be a good team player. And those were things that I tried to like prioritize. I think he's going to, like, if he gets all the way to the end and wins, he'd be doing it the right way. And I just think those things matter. I honestly think their bio, like all of their resumes are insane. So I want to give you like the real reason. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, all the resumes this year, a lot of James Beard nominees, a lot of Michelin star experience. So it's going by that pedigree alone is tough. But you're right. I was kind of reading these. I'm like, who kind of sticks out to me? Whose bio is when I read it really kind of speaks to me, and that's kind of what I'm looking for as well. So good pick. So my next pick is Bailey Sullivan out of Chicago.
God, that's who I was choosing between.
So here's why I picked Bailey. Bailey has a lot of Top Chef mentors. And that was one of the reasons why I picked her, because the Top Chef family's small. And once you're in, you're in, right? And you guys can kind of, outside of the show, you lean on each other because you're the only people that know what this experience is like and understand it. So I think Bailey, if she did the right thing, really tapped into those resources, right? And really tapped into the people that she's worked with and worked for, and says, what should I expect? What am I running into? What kind of buzzsaw am I about to run into with this whole Top Chef experience? And I'm hoping, like you said you practiced. I'm hoping with her Top Chef pedigree with the people that she's worked with, they may have like put her through some of the paces, and had her practice some things. So Bailey, reading her bio, seeing a lot of that Top Chef experience on there, and working at some Michelin-starred restaurants, made me pick her as my next pick. So
that's a good pick. I definitely think, as somebody who was not on the inside and always, would love to just love the show, wanted to compete, man, I wish I had so-and-so's number, if I ever had the chance to get on the show and ask them questions. I think that's a huge, advantage, and not that you're going to walk in and not have to work for it, but I just think having the ins and outs of the competition side and the show side, because most people show up and they're like, I know I can cook. So I think that's a huge thing.
Yep.
And vibe check. She passed the vibe check for me. Okay. I'm going to choose, and again, I'm literally I wrote down different categories, right? Of different, there's the top 10 chefs in the world. Okay, a lot of these people have worked for various chefs who are huge names. But I think I'm going to go with Zubar Mohajir. So I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
That's how I would pronounce it too.
That's how I pronounce it. Yeah. And I'll be honest. The main reason here is because when this list came out, I was in a conference. It was a chef conference of sorts, and I was sitting next to one of my favorite local chefs in Durham. But she is from, the same area of India that he is from. And I was like, oh my God, she knows I was on the show. And I was like, they just released a list. Look, and we're going through, do you know anybody? Blah, blah, blah. And she pointed him out, and she's like, he's incredible. Wow. He's going to do really well. And I trust her. So I'll be honest, that is why he has to be on my list.
Well, that just shows the chef world, the industry is a small world, and through 6 degrees of separation, you know people. So good.
So and again, Thomas Cutler, there's tons of stuff. There's all these restaurants, but I feel like that's why you have to take that next step and be like, all right, let me just ask around. Do these people know anybody?
Unfair advantage. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. What is your next?
Yeah. So my next pick, I picked this guy because I was reading his bio, and his background comes with a lot of flavor. So I picked Tristan Epps. Tristan Epps' bio, he's a Caribbean American chef, does Neo-African Caribbean cuisine in a fine dining format. There's a lot of flavors in those words that I just said. So I'm hoping to see that translate in Canada, because he's going to be handed a lot of ingredients to make a poutine, for instance. I know there's going to be a poutine challenge. So how is he going to put his Neo-Afro-Caribbean spin on a poutine challenge? So really looking forward to seeing what he does. And last year where I messed up is I picked solely on pedigree, and my competitor that season was picking people based on what region were they from, because if there's a region that's traditionally known for a lot of flavors, he was picking them, and they did well, and he kicked my tail last season. So I'm kind of following that vein this year a little bit. So Tristan Epps with the Caribbean Neo-African cuisine in his background and those tricks up his sleeve, I think he's going to do really, really well. What do you think?
I completely agree. I feel like it's just flavor bombs, and I can agree with you. As far as being in that room, right, when everyone's kind of introducing themselves and raising their hands. What have you done? I think it's interesting. You have all these initial reactions, and most of them are pretty true. But then when you get halfway through, the season and you're cooking, you do start looking around, and it's like, there's people who I wasn't as, intimidated by, who are just consistently knocking it out of the park with flavor. And they're both important. You just really have to balance it well, right? Like one of too much and not the other really doesn't work. So I agree. It's a tricky game choosing these people. And I feel like my essentially like method here is I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit, or I'm making sure that I'm getting the people who just feel really good for that reason. And also maybe I wouldn't have thought that about some of them, but I'm looking at the list and I'm like, man, there's no way that you're not going to kill it based off where you've worked. So I'm curious, but I think Tristan Epps is great.
Yep. Good. What's your next pick?
I would say, okay, I'm going to go with Vinny Licetto. Vinny Licetto.
Okay.
Essentially, for me, I competed against Danny, who did the Bocuse d'Or, and he had all of this training, exactly what you were just talking about. It is that pedigree, but I think I learned a lot from watching him and like just being in the kitchen around him. It's a totally different type of cooking when you're coming into it as a chef, competing on Top Chef, versus coming into it as a competition chef in like the highest competition in the world for cooking. And then you're doing Top Chef. Like some of these things weren't easy, but like it took me a few, days to say, I'm going to actually like do this, this, and this. Whereas Danny's like, I would never do this without doing this, this, and this, because this is what we do when we compete. And this guy has that. So essentially, he was doing I think he won the Young Chef competition in the Mentor organization. He was, part of Team USA. So the Bocuse d'Or. I just think that training alone, I really am curious to see like a lot more about him and his cooking, but it speaks a lot to me. So.
Yeah. Good pick. I agree with you with a lot of the same things that you said there. The Bocuse d'Or is not to be trifled with, right? So and Danny showed that expertise in last season, and doing really well. So yeah, good pick. So for my next pick, I'm going with, and I'm probably going to screw this name up, Shuai Wang. Shuai Wang. The part that got to me, you're talking about vibe checks, right? I'm reading his bio, and he took a culinary class in high school and read through Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential. And so if you're doing that in high school, I really think it's not just a job for you being a chef. It is a calling. It is something that he's been wanting to do his whole life. And I'm sure if I asked him, is Top Chef kind of like your top experience, he's probably going to say yes. With kind of that background and with that deep love of cooking from a young age, I'm picking him because I think he's going to I think the first few episodes, he'll have a little bit of trouble getting things under his feet because he's probably going to be just super excited to be there. But I think as he gets further along in the game, hopefully making it past those first few episodes, he'll start to find his groove. I think that's what I'm predicting. I hope. Yeah. And for that reasons, I am picking him.
I think that's great. He's actually one of the only chefs that I knew of that restaurant prior to this list coming out. I'm not, like in like a pretty personal sense. I've always wanted to go. Charleston's right down the road from us, so I've been multiple times, and I feel like I've known a few people who have worked there or have at least raved about eating there, and the food has always looked really good. So as far as like just putting delicious stuff on a plate, he was definitely someone I wanted on my list. But my next pick, I would say, I'm going to go with Massimo Piemonte. And I'll be completely honest. This is a little 50-50 for me because I think I'm trying to remember. I think it was him. There's like a little tension. There's a little drama in the promo. But I believe he was involved. And so, and not, that it's here nor there, but I think I just remember that and being like, I don't know. And I just think them highlighting stuff like that made me a little anxious, but he is a hometown chef. I think the only one this season. I don't really know if that means everything. but I think it's going to be helpful here because we're also, we are going to a new country. So we'll see.
Yeah, I always kind of root for the hometown pick. They always pick a hometown guy. Last year, what was his name from
Dan?
last season? Dan, yeah. So Dan, he was a hometown guy, killed it, despite his health issues, but killed it for the hometown of Wisconsin there. So yeah, I think this season in particular, because it's in Canada, he's going to have a distinct advantage, especially if they're going to pull out some Canadian dishes that a lot of people probably haven't done. He's probably done them at least once. So good pick. So for my next pick, I am going with Paula Endara. Paula Endara is from Quito, Ecuador, another flavor bomb region of the country. And she's a 13-year veteran. She's got all those accolades on there. But she, kind of settled into the South and kind of honed her talents on that type of cooking too. But a lot of great accolades from there. But I'm hoping to see a lot of her maybe Ecuadorian upbringing translated onto the dishes. Kind of a lot of the same reasons why I picked Kristen Epps is why I picked Paula. So that's going to be my pick.
That's awesome. Okay. I think this one, I feel very good about this one. I'm going to go with these names. They've got great names, but Lana Lagomarsini. Lana Lagomarsini. Yeah, beautiful name. Wow. To be honest, I think I do have a little bit of a bias. Like I want to root for young female chefs. Sorry. But I feel like I see her, number one, the photo, this girl's cool. Like I not only want to know more about her, I have some questions about like skincare routine, the hair. I think she seems really cool. So that aside, again, they have great resumes, but like she just seems to like have been getting started really early, and not just knowing that she wanted to do this, but like actually being like these accolades and like being involved in these big groups. And I mean, she spent a month apprenticing under renowned Argentinian chef Francis Mallmann. That's insane. Like that alone, I don't know. I just think to travel and do that, it's like the same thing as showing up and doing Top Chef. So there's different things that really impressed me, but again, she looks tough.
Yeah, her promo photo definitely makes her look like a tough competitor in the kitchen, And it's funny with chef photos; they always cross their arms. I don't know what the deal is with that, but she looks great, and I think she's going to be a tough competitor in the kitchen. So that's a great pick.
Yeah.
So my next pick, I went with Corwin Hemming. Corwin Hemming's from Augusta, Georgia. I'm not from Augusta, but I have lived in Georgia for a while, so I see a Georgia boy on there. I want to pick him. So Corwin is on there, and he has a Jamaican heritage, so a lot of flavor going on there. Worked at Nomad. He's done a ton. So I'm looking for his contemporary, quote unquote, contemporary Caribbean cuisine to be highlighted. I think if him and Tristan get on a team, I think it's going to be pretty insane. If they're able to collaborate on a pairs challenge somehow, I think the flavors are going to put together are going to be great. And luckily I have them both on my team, so we'll see what happens.
There really are literally no bad choices. I mean,
there are no bad choices.
I hope, we say that now, but I just mean like, I just feel like it's really, I think casting they did a great job this year, every year, but this is really cool. Is this, we're down to the last one or last two?
Last three. So we have Anya, Caesar, and Mimi still left on the board.
Okay, so does that mean so I'll go and then, okay, here we go. Okay, well, I know who I want. I'm going to do Caesar. Okay. Caesar Murillo. I think, to be honest, we just recently went to Chicago to visit Sue, and I've been before, not really in more recent years. Like the appreciation for like that whole city and what they're doing is just everything we had. We had so many different things and they were all so delicious. I just like that he is currently living in Chicago. I also feel like, whose name? Oh yeah, Rich Bayless. Like there's just Grace, he was a sous chef at Grace. And that was something that really stuck out to me too. Again, I don't want to be like leaning into pedigree because to be fair, like I didn't have a lot of pedigree coming in. So I feel like it's maybe it's a coincidental thing. They all have a huge pedigree in my opinion, but as far as being in Chicago, realizing that like there's zero room for any anything excess. There's nothing that isn't really great that can actually stick around. And he's there now, and he's worked at these amazing restaurants. And I mean, Grace, that's a lot of pedigree, but it's also just, I think it's a lot of intensity in the sense of like, that Michelin lifestyle and 3 Michelin stars at that. I could see him being able to handle the pressure and the heat of what's going to be happening in the competition. Good
pick. So this is going to be my last pick because you get the final pick here. So yeah, between Mimi and Anya, I think for my last pick, we are going to go with Mimi Weisenborn. Weisenborn, I think is that how you pronounce that. So I'm going with Mimi. She again, just like everybody else, just accolades upon accolades. Cooked at the James Beard House on International Women's Day. Became an executive chef at Sir Lee, James Beard Award semifinalist. I mean, all these chefs are killing it. So I think Mimi's going to be a good competitor, and they have just a ton of experience. So yeah, I think Mimi's gonna do great.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was just thinking, who's he gonna pick? Who am I gonna have? But also, again, like Anya was somebody that I was looking at. I feel like I was kind of between her and Mimi. I think I would want Anya, so I'm happy. Thank you. Sorry, I had to really think about it, but like Moscow, Russia, right? Like that's a very interesting POV. Currently living in San Francisco. Again, like these are really big food cities, but also as far as like she opened Birch and Rye, and Michelin Guide and James Beard Award semifinalist for Best New Restaurant. Like being on those lists, I think is kind of insane. Yeah. Especially when it's brand new and you're just kind of, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people will have restaurants and then maybe 5-10 years, it's a different season, a different chapter, and you'll get recognized for something. And maybe you were doing it the whole time, maybe not, but to just come right out of the gate and get those accolades, that's pretty impressive. And anybody that went to Columbia, I just think, I don't know, I went to culinary school. I feel like if you went to like a full, like 4-year college, and especially Columbia University, like you're coming into it with like a different, I don't know. I feel like you have the chops to be in the kitchen, obviously, because you're there, but there's something else too. There's the act of studying more. Maybe she's a great student. I'm hopeful. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, Anya's in the, honorary Savannah Miller position of being picked last because
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. You were picked last in last season's draft for my podcast, and you ended up almost winning the whole thing. Oh. So just to show, because we were farther down the list on some of these names means nothing. These are all great chefs. And it doesn't matter where you land on our list, whether you're top or bottom. I'm sure all these chefs are going to do great, and I would love to see Anya and Mimi be in the final 4, right, or the final 3. That would just be so great to have the last picks go all the way. So and to show that pedigree doesn't really it plays a factor, but once you get in there, it's a clean slate. Everybody starts at 0.
It might play a factor in like people doing draft picks, right? But it's like right. I can honestly say that like there are some people who have worked in the best restaurants in the world who won't last 2 episodes, and that's with any season, that's with any group of chefs. I don't mean these people specifically, but like it takes a level of like grit and like survival skill that doesn't necessarily always equate to like being a chef and working in kitchens. So I'm curious because we can't possibly really know that about these people yet.
Right.
I'm really curious.
And going through the crucible that is Top Chef, speaking from your experience, how much is Top Chef going through this? I mean, you went from beginning to end, so it's not like you went through two episodes and you're kind of back to where you were from. You went through the entire gambit, How much has that experience changed you as a chef in your approach to cooking, in the approach to the dishes that you have on your menu at your restaurant? Did any of the dishes that you cooked on Top Chef ended up on the menu? Like how have things changed in your approach to what you do?
Yeah, I think yes. I mean, the short answer is yes, right? As far as the overall change, it was more mental than like physical things as far as like we're going to bring some dishes back. But I would say just like the confidence of I haven't really spent a lot of time. I was an executive chef when I got called to do Top Chef, but I was pretty fresh into that gig. You know, I've been a CDC and I've worked for chef owners my whole life, and I've learned an incredible amount. And I've been, you know, head of departments or plenty of menu creativity, you know, whatever. But it's totally different than opening your own restaurant from the ground up and like, these are the choices I'm going to make, and I'm going to choose every little detail, and I'm going to own it, and it's mine. And that's great no matter how it turns out, because it's yours and you get to either like be rewarded for that or you can learn from that. And so I think Top Chef for me was the experience of like, oh, like I don't have anybody to really like bounce ideas off of. And I loved that in the sense of I love collaborating, but it was really fun for me to like play inside my own brain and like get those answers for myself. And I think I took that confidence home in all areas of my life of trusting myself more. And that translates into the restaurant, of course, but like in a more literal term, I've done a few pop-ups where we brought some dishes back, like definitely the mustard green dessert. I do like a little play on that, which was really fun. And then like, you know, the pork with the cheddar Caesar, you know, you may not remember these things obviously, but I brought a lot of things back, but I just think the biggest thing would essentially be that confidence and like going and doing this really hard thing that is super scary and puts me in a really uncomfortable position like 90% of the time, but like riding that high and low, to be completely honest and not dramatic at all, I think it's what life's about. And like, I just think the happiest times of my life are when I put myself in these really hard things because I get to like enjoy myself and like who I am after. So I don't know, I forget the original question, but I do think there's a lot of stuff you take home, and yeah, it changes everything. And especially going on the weekend, it's a lot of time, you know?
Yeah. Has the potato pave popped up on any of your pop-up menus?
You know, I'll be honest, I love pavés. Like I've been doing pavés like at the restaurant long before. I haven't done that exact dish, but I also think that that dish was so much of that moment. I think it was delicious, right? But like when I deliver it to a guest, I'm not going to be like, did you know that potatoes don't, you know what I mean? So
right.
We would put it in front of them and say, tonight you're blah, 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 blah. And so if they know, they know. If not, I think it's great. But it's weird too, because the restaurant where I'm the CDC in tempura, it is a very niche point of view, and we do a very specific thing, which is great because I brought a lot of that to the show. But coming home, I think the things I learned weren't about that. It was more like what's inside of me and my experiences outside of that restaurant and working in a place to put things on a menu for a reason, you know, versus like, man, what's in my heart all the time. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be like in the future, maybe like brunch or something. We have a lot more casual stuff. So
yeah. Well, Chef, I think we did it. We got through the draft. We made our picks, and we're going to live and die by these picks, and we'll see how the first episode goes. The first season of Top Chef Season 22 premieres March 13th at 9 o'clock on Bravo. So tune in, and then we are going to do a follow-up episodic recap on Fridays, and it will launch on Mondays. So the episode will air on Thursdays, and I will have our follow-up episode, our recaps, and point tabulation through the season, airing every Monday or releasing every Monday. So you want to make sure you like, follow, and subscribe at Eat Your Content on socials and anywhere you get your podcast, so you know when those things drop. Chef, where can people find you on Instagram? Where can people, stalk you and see what's going on in your life?
Yeah. Instagram, I would say, is the best place to do so. Savvy Sav, SAVVY SAVV. That's where
Awesome.
all the happenings are.
Awesome. So make sure you follow her. She has some great photos of team ups with Sue last week. So that was really fun to look at and watch. So make sure you follow her on Instagram. Chef Savannah, thank you so much. I had a ton of fun doing this draft. I'm really looking forward to breaking down the season with you and talking about all these chefs in depth week after week for the next 14 weeks and breaking down Top Chef and seeing how it goes.
It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
Thanks for listening to Eat Your Content. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting the podcast through my merch store on TeePublic. Get great quality items like t-shirts, hats, mugs, and more, all sporting the vibrant Eat Your Content logo. Go to teepublic.com/user/eatyourcontent for more great items, and thanks for your support.